I looked in the mirror one morning, just after my 62nd birthday, and I didn't see myself, I saw my mother. I saw a woman who had spent 40 years making sure everyone else's plate was full while hers was empty. And I realized, with a terrifying clarity, that if I didn't change something right now, I was going to die without ever having really lived the second half of my life. That is what a woman named Alina told me during our first session. She was intelligent, she was retired, she had grandchildren who loved her, and she was drowning in a quiet, invisible despair. She felt that the best parts of her movie were over, and she was just sticking around for the credits to roll. She believed the cultural lie that her 60s were a time for winding down, for fading into the background, for becoming a spectator in the lives of younger people. But she was wrong, and if you are watching this, and you feel that heavy, grey fog of irrelevance creeping in, you are wrong too. In my years of clinical practice, specializing in the psychology of women and the complex dynamics of relationships, I have seen a very specific, unspoken crisis hit women between the ages of 55 and 70. It is not a crisis of aging. It is a crisis of permission. It is a moment where you stand at a crossroads. Down one path lies the invisible woman, the caretaker who slowly disappears, whose world shrinks until it fits inside a single room, whose health declines from the stress of unexpressed emotion. But down the other path lies what I call the comeback. The comeback is the psychological reality that your 60s can, and statistically should, be better than your 20s. In your 20s, you were insecure, you were broke, and you were desperately trying to figure out who you were while trying to please everyone around you. In your 60s, you know who you are. You have resources, you have wisdom, buttoned. This is the but that catches everyone. The comeback only happens if you do one specific thing. If you fail to do this one thing, you will repeat the patterns of your past until they break you. I want you to listen very closely to what I am about to share. This is not just motivational speaking. This is about your neurological and emotional survival. If you want to protect your future, your autonomy, and your joy, I invite you to click the like button and subscribe to this channel. We are building a community here of women who refuse to go quietly into that good night. And I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because I am going to give you a set of specific diagnostic questions that act like a mirror. They will show you, without a shadow of a doubt, if you are currently blocking your own comeback. The one thing you must do is not a diet. It is not a financial investment, and it is not finding a new husband. The one thing is radical self-authorization, It is the psychological shift from asking for permission to assuming authority. However, there are 4 hidden traps, deeply ingrained psychological patterns that prevent women in their 60s from achieving this. Most women walk right into these traps because they look like being a good person or being safe. Let's dismantle them, one by one. The first danger is what I call the good girl hangover. You might think you outgrew this in your 40s, but for the generation of women currently in their 60s, the conditioning to be good, to be accommodating, and to be low maintenance is burnt into your neural pathways. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was 64. She had been divorced for 10 years. Her children were grown, and she had a comfortable pension. She told me she wanted to travel to Italy. She had the money, she had the time. But 3 years passed, and she never bought the ticket. Why? Because her daughter had a newborn, and Margaret felt she should be available. Because her church group needed a treasurer, and she felt she couldn't say no. Because she felt a vague, free-floating guilt any time she spent money on pure pleasure. Margaret was suffering from the good girl hangover. In her 20s, being good was a survival strategy to get a husband or a promotion. In her 60s, it was a prison. The psychology here is the fawn response. You are so used to scanning the room to see what everyone else needs that you have severed the connection to what you need. You are waiting for someone to hand you a permission slip that says, "It's okay to go to Italy, Margaret, we will be fine without you." But here is the brutal truth. No one is coming to give you that permission slip. Your children will take as much as you give. Your community will take as much as you give. If you wait for them to tell you to stop, you will wait until you are in the grave. The consequence of the good girl hangover is resentment. You will start to secretly resent the people you love because you feel they are stopping you, when in reality you are stopping yourself. Concrete rule: you do not ask for time off from your own life. You announce your availability, you do not request it. The second danger is even more subtle, and I see it destroy the romantic and social lives of women in this demographic constantly. It is the shrinking world trap. As we age, the brain naturally craves familiarity. It feels safer to stay home than to drive at night. It feels safer to talk to the same 3 friends than to join a new club. It feels safer to wear the same clothes you've worn for a decade. I worked with a woman named Linda, 61. Linda was lonely. She wanted a partner. But Linda had constructed a life so small and so rigid that there was no room for a new person to enter. She stopped driving on highways because it made her nervous. She stopped going to evening events because she was tired. She stopped inviting people over because her house wasn't perfect. She was waiting for a comeback in her love life, but she had physically and logistically removed herself from the marketplace of humanity. This is an anxiety disorder masquerading as preference. You tell yourself, "I just prefer quiet nights in," but actually, you are afraid of the discomfort of the unknown. When you stop doing things, your world shrinks. And when your world shrinks, your confidence shrinks with it. You become fragile. A woman in her 60s who is expanding her world, learning a language, dancing, dating, hiking is vibrant. A woman who is shrinking her world is signaling to her brain that she is preparing for the end. The consequence here is rapid cognitive and emotional decline. You become irrelevant not because the world pushed you out, but because you locked the door from the inside. Concrete rule: comfort is the enemy of the comeback. If a choice feels safe but small, you must do the opposite. There is a third danger that is specific to relationships and love in your 60s. It is the ghost of the past syndrome. This happens when you try to relive your 20s instead of inventing your 60s. I see this with women who re-enter the dating scene after a long marriage or widowhood. They are subconsciously trying to recreate the dynamic they had when they were 25. They worry about their physical appearance with the same neuroticism they had at 25, ignoring the fact that a man in his 60s is looking for something entirely different than a boy in his 20s. Or, they try to recreate the family unit dynamic, looking for a man to take care of them, or a man they can fix. I had a client, Susan, 65. She met a wonderful man, a retired architect. He was kind, stable, and interested. But Susan sabotaged it. Why? Because there was no drama. There was no high-stakes adrenaline. In her 20s, love meant anxiety, chasing, and highs and lows. Because this relationship was calm, she felt it was boring. She was judging a 60-year-old love by a 20-year-old metric. She was looking backward at a distorted memory of romance, rather than forward at the deep, companionate, passionate stability that is available now. The comeback requires you to grieve your 20s, not relive them. Your body is different. Your tolerance for nonsense is different. Your needs are different. If you try to wear the emotional clothes of a young woman, they will not fit, and you will feel inadequate. Concrete rule: do not measure your current happiness against a nostalgic, airbrushed memory of your past. Measure it against the peace you feel today. The fourth danger is the most painful one to discuss, but we must face it. It is the body apology. This is the pervasive belief that your physical aging is a failure that you must apologize for, hide, or compensate for. I cannot tell you how many women in their 60s tell me they cannot date because of their neck, or their arms, or their weight. They have convinced themselves that they are disqualified from intimacy. This is the ultimate tragedy, because the 60s can be a time of immense sexual and sensual liberation. You are no longer worried about pregnancy. You are no longer performing for the male gaze in the same way. You know your body. But if you are stuck in the body apology, you walk into a room or a date with your energy contracted. You are hiding, and people treat you the way you treat yourself. If you treat yourself like a damaged antique that needs to be kept in the dark, men will sense that insecurity and back away, not because of your wrinkles, but because of your lack of presence. I remember a woman named Diane. She was 63, a vibrant artist. She met a man online. They chatted for weeks. The chemistry was great, but she kept canceling the first date. Finally, she admitted to me, "I'm afraid he'll see that I'm not the woman in the pictures from 5 years ago." She was holding her life hostage over vanity. We worked on this. I told her, "Diane, you are not a photo. You are an experience. If he wants a photo, he can buy a magazine. If he wants a woman, he wants you." She went on the date. She stopped apologizing for occupying space. And she found a romance that was hotter and more real than anything she had in her 30s. Concrete rule: your body is the vehicle of your experience, not the admission fee you pay to be loved. Now, why does this matter? Why is this comeback so critical? If you do not authorize yourself to live fully now, but the greatest emotional legacy you can leave your adult children is the example of a mother who is fully alive. If your children see you martyr yourself, if they see you lonely and fearful, they carry the burden of your unhappiness. They feel guilty living their own lives because mum is sitting at home waiting for a phone call. But if they see you traveling, dating, starting a business, taking art classes, and setting boundaries, they are liberated. They stop worrying about you and start respecting you. You change the generational blueprint for every woman who comes after you. So, what does the healthy alternative look like? What does this comeback actually look like in practice? It looks like living apart together relationships, where you have intimacy and companionship but keep your own homes and finances separate, preserving your autonomy. It looks like spending your money on your own experiences rather than hoarding it all for an inheritance. It looks like saying no to babysitting the grandkids when you have theater tickets and feeling zero guilt about it. It looks like a woman named Claire. Claire was 68. She had spent her life as a teacher and a wife. When her husband passed, everyone expected her to become the quiet, doting grandmother. Instead, Claire took her one thing, her radical self-authorization, and she started a consulting business. She started dating a man 5 years younger than her. She bought a convertible. She told me, "I realized I have maybe 20 good years left. That's 7,300 days. I am not wasting a single one of them feeling sorry for myself or doing what the neighbors think is appropriate." Claire's 60s were better than her 20s because, in her 20s, she was terrified of doing the wrong thing. In her 60s, she realized there is no wrong thing as long as it is her asterisk thing. Now, I want to pivot to those self-diagnostic questions I promised you. I want you to close your eyes for a moment, if it's safe to do so, or just soften your gaze. Answer these honestly. Question 1. When you think about your schedule for next week, how much of it is filled with things you have to do for others, versus things you want to do for yourself? If the ratio is unbalanced, you are in the good girl trap. Question 2. Are you waiting for a calamity, a diagnosis, a loss, a crisis to give you permission to make a change? Are you waiting for things to get bad enough before you act? Question 3. Is there a conversation you are avoiding with your adult children or your partner because you are afraid of rocking the boat? Question 4. When you look in the mirror, do you speak to yourself with the kindness of a grandmother or the criticism of a high school bully? Question 5. If you knew you had exactly 5 years left of perfect health, what would you do differently today, and why aren't you doing it? If these questions stirred up anxiety or sadness in you, that is good. That is your psyche waking up. That is the beginning of the comeback. The comeback is not about looking 20 again. It is about feeling more than you ever did at 20. It is about taking the resources, the resilience, and the intelligence you have gathered over 6 decades and finally pointing them toward your own happiness. Your 60s will be better than your 20s because you are no longer a passenger in your own life. You are the driver, but you have to take the wheel. You have to authorize yourself. You have to look at the good girl roles, the fear, and the shame, and say, "Thank you for your service, but I don't need you anymore. Thank you for spending this time with me." If this message resonated with you, if you felt that spark of recognition, please share this video with a friend who needs to hear it. Like and subscribe to help us reach more women who are ready for their comeback. And remember, it is not too late. You are just getting to the good part.